So hey everyone, and in this video we are going to create a web server using Node.js. So till now we have covered very basic modules like OS module, path module and FS module and some basic methods to use Node.js. But still there is a confusion that why do actually we need Node.js? Like these things are just normal, like you can do these things with normal JavaScript. But what's the specific use of Node.js? So Node.js is actually created to use JavaScript in your computer. That means you would be using JavaScript in your browser, you would be writing console log, or you would be going to the console section of the website and you would see the changes, and you can write JavaScript in your HTML code also. So that's some separate thing, but you know that Node.js contains JavaScript and you now are able to use JavaScript in your computer with the help of Node.js. Node.js allows you to make a backend. Yes, web server simply means a backend, and backend is like, for example, you are creating a social media platform. So your front end is your website, backend is where your processes are happening, like getting the user data, saving the details, updating the details, deleting a user, showing content to the user. Things like that are actually happening in the backend, and that response is sent to the front end. So for creating a very good backend, Node.js is a very popular choice. So it allows us to write JavaScript code into your backend, and its main purpose especially is when we use as a web server, it is enabling the creation of highly efficient and scalable web application, including the application programming interfaces. That means you will be creating APIs using Node.js. We'll understand what's exactly an API here. So let's break down the purpose of Node.js. First of all, it would allow us to handle asynchronous operation. What is asynchronous? For example, some process is taking 1 hour, another process is taking 1 second, third process is taking 2 seconds. So the process which is taking 1 hour, if it's finishing first, then the 1 second process, then the 2 second process, though, so things are happening in an order. This is known as synchronous. This is known as synchronous. And if I talk about asynchronous, it simply says process which takes less time, allow it to be finished first. Okay, that means the 1 second and 2 second processes would be completed first. Along with that, 1 hour process would also be completed, but yeah, the process which are taking very less time, they don't have to wait for the very big process to be completed. That is known as actually asynchronous, and Node.js allows us to create a asynchronous backend. That is really beneficial in today's technologies. Okay, so second thing is it would allow us to create web servers. Like using HTTP, you can create different APIs to get data, update data, delete data, modify data, and you can actually connect your database with this. Like you would be having your database in MySQL, or in Stack you would be using MongoDB, so you'd be connecting your database to Node.js, and Node.js would be connected to your front end. Okay, so main guy between your front end and database is the Node.js. Node.js acts as a restriction, that is the backend is acting as a restriction from the front end to the database. That means if front end could directly access the database, that's not safe, right? So that's why we have a backend which actually acts as a mediator between the front end and the database. So now we have talked enough. Now let's write some code. So guys, here I'm simply going to create a new folder and let's name it as my first web server. Okay, so we are going to write some code here. So I'm just going to write a very basic backend in Node.js. Okay, so I've just created this folder. Now I'm going to right click. This is the first step. Open this in VS Code. I hope everyone has installed VS Code. If not, then you can watch my installation video, which is available on module 1. Now here you can see, first of all, I would open my terminal, new terminal, and here I have to check for the option npm-v. Make sure that you get the version, else you have to properly install Node.js. You can watch my installation video. So you can see npm is here. Now if I write npm in it, it would initialize a very basic package, and it would actually create a package, my custom package, which would contain all my dependencies. Like in future you would be using index, you would be using express.js or validator.js or any kind of package. So for that you would be using npm to install packages. All that packages would be now located in package.json file. So this allows you to first of all create an empty package.json file, and I've already discussed this, but still I'm discussing it again. So you can see that you just need to hit enter, 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 and hit enter. So you can see that I have a file named as index.js. That means my main file would be index.js. So let's create a file named as index.js. Okay, so index.js. Now, guys, to know the main purpose of package.json, you can watch my previous video on the same modules. Okay, so you'd learn more about modules in the OS path module video, so you would understand that. Now, here my main purpose is to use an inbuilt module, that is HTTP. So if I write const HTTP equals require HTTP. Okay, so that's how you actually import a module, and that's already available in Node.js. You don't need to install it separately. Then I'm going to create a server. So if I write const server, so I'm just creating a JavaScript variable named as server, and it would be containing a method of HTTP module named as create server. So what is this? Let me just first of all write the code, then I'll explain. So we have two things here, REQ and RES, request and response. Okay, so what I'm gonna say is, first of all, you are going to write a response. Okay, so whenever someone tries to access your backend, what that person would see. So I would just simply say write head. Now what is this? What is this? So I'm just saying that the data which I'm going to send to the front end would be of HTML format or text format. The status code is 200. Whenever you see 200 status code, this means everything is fine, you received the perfect response. So right now I'm assuming that my backend is working fine and I'm sending a response which is correct. That means 200 means correct. Now if I just say res.end, and I can actually send some HTML code. Okay, so that's what I'm saying, that whenever I'm requesting my backend URL, I would get hello world HTML page. Okay, so let's see how it works. So for testing it, I would simply go here, and if I type npm I nodemon -g. So if you haven't installed nodemon globally, you have to just do it once in your laptop, only for one time, because we are making it global. So you just have to do this once, then it would be installed, and you don't have to do it again and again for each backend. It would be done. So I have already installed it globally in my previous project, so I don't need to do this. Simply I can write nodemon. Okay, so now make sure if you have a file named as index.js here and index.js here, so you don't need to write anything after this. Suppose there is some other name here, for example, sometimes you might see script.js or main.js, and here your file is something else apart from this. Okay, this name and this name is different, so you need to write this name. Okay, so you have to write this name. So but in my case both are same. You can see index.js both are same, so I don't need to write anything. I can simply hit enter. So you can see that it has started. Okay, it has started. But one more thing, guys, whenever you create a server, you have to start that server also. Here we have just created the server, we haven't started the server. So to start the server, we have a method here named as listen. Okay, so first of all, let me just say my port. Okay, so your computer has different ports for running different kind of backend. Suppose you have created a backend in PHP, that might run in some other port. My Node.js backend is running on port 8000. Okay, so right now if I just say server.listen, and then you have to provide the port. After that, I'm just creating an arrow function which is called, and it's giving me this console. So you can see I'm getting this in my console. And now let's try to call this. How are we going to call this? So guys, for this you just need to write localhost :8000, and you can see that I got my HTML page, right? So isn't that crazy? So you just sent HTML page as a response. Okay, so a lot of people actually just create their front end also on the backend side and just send that as a response. Actually, this is not a very good practice, but just for example, I'm just showing you that from backend you can send the HTML code, or you can just send a normal string like, hey there, this is not HTML code, this is some normal string. Okay, this is some normal string. So this is some normal string, and you can see that if I reload, you can see I'm getting a normal string. Okay, this is not HTML code. Okay, this is normal text. So guys, now we just created a very basic server which gives hey there text.